Mom, Dad, there's no way that I can express to you what I'm feeling right now. My heart is full to bursting, except to say, I'm the king of the world!
Hello and welcome back to Cameron, King of the World. In this video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different and kind of diving into the realm of home video more than anything, which I guess I've kind of touched on in previous videos in this series, but this one is very specifically a Terminator 2 Blu-ray home video guide. Kind of. I haven't fully done my research on this, so don't take my word as gospel, but my experience of Terminator 2 on home video and my thoughts on the current releases and which is the best Blu-ray to buy and pick up and add to your collection as a Terminator 2 fan. And I wasn't sure whether to make this video or not, but I can't remember where it was. I was talking to someone online somewhere. I think it was Twitter, and they weren't aware of the best version. It's generally considered to be generally. I kind of mixed genuinely and generally then into generally. I'll leave that in for free. Generally, it's considered to be the best Blu-ray release. Of course, it's all up to kind of people's own opinions, I suppose. I don't think it's entirely objective, but at the same time, I know what I like, and a lot of people know what they like in terms of picture quality, and that really plays into it. And that's really been an interesting development for James Cameron. And I just watched an interview literally 5 minutes ago with James Cameron from a few years ago, which really gave me the inspiration to start filming this particular video right now, because I'm really intrigued by this thing that he said. He was at a screening for the Terminator, and but before I get to that, the reason that I find it so interesting and the reason I'm so mystified as to how Terminator 2 has been given such lackluster treatment on Blu-ray when it comes to the picture quality. It's crazy to me because the Blu-ray for the Terminator, at least the remastered version that came out in 2012, had such an amazing treatment. It just seems strange that the first one gets this gorgeous remaster and the second one doesn't. But it's not for lack of trying as well. That's the other thing. It's a strange situation. So Cameron went to a screening, I think, of the first Terminator, and he admitted in an interview to not really liking the film all that much anymore. He thinks that texturally, he's not a fan of the way that film looks, photographically. Now, I know the reason I love the way the film looks on Blu-ray, and no doubt is the print that is used when they screen the film now for modern screenings, because it has so much grain. What film is made of, those little particles of grain, that is what makes a film. And this transfer for the Terminator is full of grain, and it looks gorgeous and tactile, it's a physical thing. And that's why it looks so great, I think. There's so much detail to be gleaned from that grain. And in Terminator 2, they wiped it all. Pretty much. We're not talking Predator Ultimate Hunter Edition levels of digital noise reduction, but we're not too far off. So Terminator 2 has had an interesting release history that I couldn't even possibly begin to cover in a comprehensive fashion, especially if we're talking about all home media and home video releases, because there's VHS, there's Laserdisc. There was a very lavish special edition Laserdisc release. And I would hazard a guess that the Laserdisc is probably the most comprehensive in terms of extras, I would say. And the Blu-ray releases, the many that there have been, have ported over various versions of the Laserdisc extras and then the DVD extras that were created much later. So it's it's kind of a mixed bag. And then you get to the point where extras have been made for the Blu-ray releases. So there's just 3 different, maybe even 4. If I'm not even sure if anything was ever done for a VHS. There was actually, yes. So the interview with James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger which was done around the time of Terminator 2 in the early 90s, that was made for a special edition VHS box set. So, and I've got to imagine that some of the Laserdisc stuff was made for the Laserdisc exclusively. So yeah, and then the DVD stuff for sure, like the commentaries were recorded in 2003, so they certainly weren't done for a Laserdisc release. So there literally has been 4 generations of, you know, Laserdisc, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and they've all had new extras created for them. And hell, even the 4K release I think has something, but then I think that's also on the 4K restoration regular Blu-ray. But regardless, extras as far as getting everything together for this one film seems fairly impossible. So if you want all the extras, if you want to be completist about special features with Terminator 2, you're going to have to double dip, probably triple dip, possibly quadruple. I used to have, I think it's still in my cupboard of doom back at my mum's place, just full wall to wall of my old stuff that I've hoarded since I was a kid. I'm fairly certain there's a DVD box set in there with Terminator 1, Terminator 2. I think they're both 2-disc sets and boatloads of extras, and I really want to get hold of them for this series, but with lockdown and so on and so forth, and also just, you know, getting into that cupboard. I think I already talked about it in one of the early the Terminator videos, but so I've already covered that, I suppose. But yeah, so there's all that stuff that may be new and isn't on some of the Blu-ray discs, but yeah, extras wise, Terminator 2 has a lot of stuff, and it's kind of a mixed bag when you look at the various Blu-ray releases. So I'll get into the 3 that I have in my possession and collection. One version I don't have is the original Terminator 2 release, which was released in 2006. So that was right at the beginning of Blu-ray's lifespan, which is crazy to think that's almost 15 years ago now. Blu-ray still almost feels fairly new to me, even though it really isn't. It just isn't. In fact, by the time Blu-ray came along, DVD was about the same age, I guess. So yeah, that's interesting to think about. Anyway, 2006 there was an initial release of the Terminator. I'm not sure what that looked like or how the extras were, but there was a redone Skynet edition. So this came out a few years later, and this is the one I have here in the steelbook form, which is a very nice looking steelbook. It's got a nice matte finish on the actual endoskeleton here, and then the rest is kind of a matte finish, which feels very nice with kind of the brushed steel effect, I suppose. On the back it's all matte, no gloss. But yeah, I quite like this. But this one is, by all accounts, I don't have the disc in this one, it's actually in my player because I've been trying to watch some of the extras. This one, by all accounts, is not the best version. It really isn't. I've watched it, and it's watchable, but when you compare it to other versions, it's really shocking, actually, how how poor this looks, because it is completely covered in digital noise reduction. And it seems to me that this is something that James Cameron really likes. He likes wiping the grain out of his films. He likes making them look more modern. Now, I'm not sure what the extent of Cameron's involvement was in this Skynet edition, but it doesn't look the best. You know, people's faces appear very smooth, and the extras. It's an interesting bag with the extras. I've been looking through them on the Blu-ray. There's a lot of text-based features in terms of you can see the script as the movie's playing. You can see storyboards as the movie's playing. You can see text facts about the film as it's playing, and you also get kind of a picture-in-picture track, which is really clumsy and difficult to navigate, I found. It was interesting. I liked the way they laid it out with the graphics on screen, but it's a little bit cluttered. And you can, which I thought was a really cool idea, is you can just go to a separate menu and watch the picture-in-picture featurettes, which is about maybe like 45 minutes to an hour's worth of these small mini featurettes that directly correlate to the moments of the film that play as you see them, which is a very cool idea. And it's certainly, you know, not a brand new thing. It's been done before. But when you watch them all independently on their own, they're in a very small box. So say this screen is like your TV. It would be like here, just like in a small little square frame, and you can't zoom in more than that. And so it's like, well, full screen it. You know, let me see everything on the screen. Not like to the point of cropping it into a squash widescreen image, but you know, just show me the bloody featurettes. But it doesn't seem to be possible to do it that way. There's a really good making of that's on most of the Blu-ray releases, I think. Let me just see if this one has it. Yeah, the Making of Terminator 2 featurette. It's like a 30-minute, like when I first started it, it seemed like a vintage, like, you know, vintage from 1992 or 1991 when the film came out. It seemed like one of those like EPK, you know, electronic press kits where it's like 10 minutes of the actors going, oh, this is such an amazing thing to work on, and we had such a great time, and you're not going to believe how much bigger and better this one is, that kind of thing. There's a little bit of that, but it's a really good, meaty 30-minute, lots of behind-the-scenes stuff. Arnold getting his makeup on. There's a really funny, funny moment where they bring out one of the big Arnold kind of, I guess you wouldn't call it a puppet, but a maquette. It's not even a maquette. I don't know. It's like a full like torso of Arnold with like the battle damage and stuff. And he goes up, and of course Arnold's first inclination is to try and kiss the thing because he finds it so attractive. But you know, there's a lot of fun moments of Arnie goofing off. Interesting interviews with the cast while they're making the film, you know, so it was actually really good, and they go into the special effects and stuff, so that was really enjoyable. And I've seen some of that stuff before, but it was really cool to go back to it. So there's a number of featurettes, and then there's the versions of the film, and maybe I'll get to that after I've shown you the other two copies that I have. So the next one in line after the Skynet edition is this version, which is simply just Terminator 2. I don't know what you would really call this one. I think this was released by Lionsgate. I'm not sure if that's unique to, because I know Studio Canal released copies of this in the UK, but this is Lionsgate. This is a US Blu-ray. It is region A locked, but this is the one to get. If you want to see Terminator 2 in the best picture quality, this is the one to get, at least when it comes to Blu-ray. I can't speak to the 4K, but we'll get to the new 4K 2017 transfer in just a second. So this is, I mean, you can buy this very cheap. As far as I'm aware, it's still available for a very decent price. This comes from a Japanese transfer, I believe. That, or it looks very similar to the Japanese release. And it somehow seems to be a version of the film that slipped out there without digital noise reduction. There is grain on this transfer. You can see more details. Things aren't washed out and all, you know, smoothed away. And so for me, this is the best one to get. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like you put this in and you're like, holy shit, this looks amazing. It's certainly not as good or as accomplished as the Terminator transfer, in my opinion. But it's the best that I've seen it, and that's worth something. So this one only has the theatrical cut and the special edition cut. So there are 3 cuts overall. There's the theatrical, there's the special edition cut, and then there's the, I think they call it the extended special edition cut, which is not present on here. I'm not sure if they include it as an extra. It doesn't seem like on the back. But yeah, so that's one reason to keep hold of the Skynet edition, is that it has the 3 versions of the film. But the third one, you don't really, it's more of an oddity than anything else, I suppose. And it's the version that has the alternate ending with an old Sarah Connor in the future, with John Connor playing with his kids, and he's now a senator, you know. And I believe you can only access that on the Skynet version by, it's like an Easter egg. So it says theatrical version, special edition, and then you have to input a code to get the special edition extended version, and I believe the code is the date of Judgment Day. And I wouldn't watch that one. And I think yeah, on the next one I'm going to talk about, it has it has all 3, I think. I'm not sure if it'll say, yeah, it has all 3 versions, but it also has the 2 extra scenes from the extended special edition as independent features, also with audio commentary. So there's just so many special features. So I'll just show you the last Blu-ray release I have here, which is the 2017 restoration, which was overseen by James Cameron. He was very much involved in this. I've seen him do interviews talking about this release. There are differences to this film. There are things that have been changed. There's a little bit of a George Lucas effect going on there. I'm not sure if, you know, everyone is aware of that. So this was done in 4K, so there's a 4K version of this, has the same cover, but obviously the black strip at the top. I haven't gone for that one. I don't know if I will. And I would say this looks better than the Skynet version for sure. But there is definitely, even in the opening scene when you get to Arnold in the bar, and he's standing there, you can see his bare chest and everything. It's just flat. Like there's no like definition to that face. It's really, the grain is gone, you know, it's fairly smoothed out. But I kept looking at it thinking that it doesn't look entirely DNR'd to shit. So I was wondering what the difference was. And you know, it's different when you're watching it on motion on a screen, but when you can get into the fine details, things appear and you see what's really going on with the image. So I went to Capsaholic and did a comparison. So they take the same screenshot from different versions on different Blu-rays and discs, and you can compare them. Like, you know, you lay the mouse over and it changes, and you pull the mouse away and it goes back to the other. So I did that with this version, and I think maybe the Skynet version, or it might have been the 2015 version, which is that's what I call it. This is the 2015 Blu-ray. That's the one to get. So I think I compared the 2015 to the 2017, and I suddenly realized what I think is going on here. I think with this version, it's been DNR'd. You know, a certain amount of the grain has been removed, and then it's been artificially sharpened. There's like, I think there was a detail on Arnold's face where the eyebrows seemed to pop more than they did on the 2015 version, and it just seemed like more detail was being introduced than was originally there, which doesn't make sense when it looks like the grain's been taken away. So I feel like it's been sharpened. But I will say, I watched this version specifically because I couldn't find this one when we rewatched it a couple of weeks ago. So I thought, all right, shit, I better just use this, I guess. The reason I bought this to begin with is because I did a video for this with one of my editing jobs. And it was a video about mistakes in the Terminator, in Terminator 2. And that's one of the things that's been changed in the film. In the chase scene through the LA River, when the pickup truck smashes over the bridge and lands in the kind of empty river, the windshield falls out. And then in the next shot, the windshield is still there. Later on, he pushes it out. And Cameron said in an interview that that was the one thing he had to change. He said that I didn't change anything else. It was just that one thing that always bugged me was the windshield, you know, fell off the truck. So he changed that digitally in this version of the film. So that's why I wanted the Blu-ray, just to get a copy of that new change. And I also thought that, you know, it's a film I love. I'd like to own a different version of it. And this is pretty much a different version. So that's one thing. But he also changed a few other things. There's a couple of shots in that chase sequence where you can see a very obvious stunt double riding the motorbike as Arnold. Particularly the shot where he whizzes past the truck as the truck's veering into the side of the river, and he kind of just ekes through and grabs John Connor. To me, it always looked like David Hasselhoff. And they've digitally done Arnold's face. I think also on the shot where he's driving away from the explosion at the end of the chase, and then also the shot where he jumps off the ledge, which they actually did that with wires, which I thought it's pretty. It's really like you don't really. Well, I guess you wouldn't see it because it's such a simple effect, but it was actually something that they toiled over when they were making the film, because Cameron wanted to do that big bike jump with wires, and the special effects guys were a little bit worried about it because they hadn't done wire removal to that extent at the time. Anyway, to me, it always seemed like a real legit stunt, and it is still a legit stunt, don't get me wrong, but it's also very obvious because it's a slow motion, you know, front facing shot, that it's not Arnold on the bike, and it's fine. You don't really need to, you know, I get it, he's not going to do something as dangerous as that. He's the main star, and you have insurance to deal with, and he's the, you know, he really is the star of the movie. But they changed it for this version and digitally put his face on. I have to say, as far as digital face replacement goes, it's pretty damn good, actually. But yeah, the film, it just has a different feel to it. It looks more modern. I think Cameron wants it to feel more digital, more like films look now. And, you know, that's his prerogative. You know, if he wants to do that, that's, you know, it's his film, I suppose. And I can't really argue with that. I just prefer looking at it the way that it kind of looked, you know, pretty much when it came out. Not that I know that, but it just a healthier, more natural, filmic looking transfer is really what I want out of any film, really. And with a film as great as Terminator 2, that's the one I'm going to stick to. So it's one of those unfortunate things where, I don't know, the creator's intent doesn't match up with my viewing pleasure. And that certainly has been a case with directors in the past, i.e. George Lucas and many Star Wars fans. This isn't to that extent, of course, but you just feel like a good transfer should really be, I don't know, paramount, I guess, but at the same time, he probably feels like this is a good transfer. You know, that's the way he wants it to look. And at a certain point, I think that, I don't know, because then you get into that whole thing of like who really has ownership over the film here, the fans or the creator, and really it's the creator. And what was really funny about this was when we started watching it, there's a little notice that comes up at the beginning, because we watched the special edition version, and the notice said that be warned that because this is the special edition version, certain scenes will not look to the same standard as the rest of the film. And this is due to like it's like that spiel where it's like you watch something where like it's the film's been damaged, or it's like, you know, this is the best that's the best we can do with the surviving elements, you know. It's really like, you know, preparing you for the worst. And whenever this would change to a scene from the special edition, I was like, holy shit, it's grain. It's a film. And the jump in picture quality is very strange, because it definitely feels like color grading has been applied here. It feels like a bluer look, I think. But again, I'm not the best with colors at all, and cinematography in terms of color theory and stuff. But it did have a colder look. And when you get to the special edition scenes, it feels much warmer, and not in like an overly warm way, but just more natural. Again, I guess, I don't know. But you can make up your own mind. You can go to Capsaholic and you can see which one looks the best to you, I suppose, whether it's the 2017 version, the Skynet version, or the 2015 version, all of which I think are still fairly widely available. I would be intrigued to see the 4K version, just to see, you know, because we are dealing with film elements, but, you know, a lot of that grain that looks so great on 4K, you know, discs from legit, you know, movies shot on film, is probably not going to be there, you know, and that's kind of the big appeal for me with 4K. But yeah, so there's that. Commentary-wise, I think you get those on all versions of the Blu-rays. Yeah, so I think you're okay on that front. On this 2017 release, there's a new, almost hour-long retrospective, which is really good. So it might be worth picking up for that. But yeah, oh, that's interesting. It says 2 feature commentaries, and the cast and crew commentary is from 1993. That's not true, because, well, at least the James Cameron and William Wisher commentary was done in 2003. And it's widely known that that's the year that it was recorded, and they also comment on Terminator 3 at one point in the commentary. But I guess maybe the cast and crew commentary might have been put together for the Laserdisc, because it is an amalgam of interview pieces, perhaps. So maybe the Cameron commentary was a new kind of addition to the, I think it was there was like an Ultimate Edition DVD at some point. There's been many versions of all the films, but yeah. So that's pretty much it. As far as Terminator 2 goes, I would highly recommend you go with this one. But even then, it could still look a lot better, in my opinion. And it is one of those things where, you know, you're kind of spoiled with how good the first one looks, and it kind of just, it doesn't seem to fit, like, doesn't seem to make sense, you know. And I don't know whether this was made without his approval, and that's why he doesn't like the way the film texturally looks photographically. Anyway, that's my little video, well, little, so I've rambled on and on about these things, but that's my thoughts on the Terminator 2 Blu-ray situation, and what I would recommend. But honestly, I like that I have these 3 editions, because I feel like I have most of the extras covered with these 3. I'm sure there's a few things out there that aren't ported over from the Laserdisc or whatever, but I'm not an expert on that for sure. So yeah, Terminator 2. Wouldn't it be great if Arrow Video came out with something? In fact, I think I think Jambo Shango and the Randy Moles Movie Show, James talked about that on his channel, about how Arrow Video releasing Terminator 2 would be really cool. But I think just seeing a legit Arrow Video box set would be really nice, just like a super deluxe treatment, but also just like a 35mm original camera negative scan with no digital noise reduction. Would Cameron allow it? I don't know. It would be intriguing to see if if some company were able to kind of just sneak it under the carpet without him realizing that they've done a really good transfer of one of his films. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.